So tell me where you guys are sort of putting your money where your mouth is over the next 12 months. I know your product roadmap is pretty fluid right now and moving fast. Tell me about where you're investing.
Sure. SpotXchange is a video advertising platform for publishers and sell-side entities. So what we mean by that is we provide ad-serving infrastructure, immediate connectivity to all of the major programmatic buying platforms, or DSPs. And where things are really starting to get interesting is this notion of programmatic direct, or taking the way things used to transact, automating that, handling it through a deal ID instead of an ad tag, which many other industries have gone through, and now it's advertising's turn. And
where are you, I mean, if you look, sort of reflect back as to what's been driving your product roadmap, what is the thing publishers need the most right now, since you're so focused on the supply side?
And that's actually one great point. Our core philosophy is to listen to our customers in terms of developing our roadmap. Having been a publisher for 5 years before joining SpotXchange, one of the big concerns was transparency and what you can do with that data. So having a direct sales team, but not knowing what was happening on the programmatic front was a big issue. One of the big differentiators that SpotXchange offers is actually campaign level transparency live in real time in our UI. Publishers can also act on that data. So you can literally drop a rate card in at the campaign level, so you protect yourself from a pricing degradation standpoint. You can also use that data from an optimization or a yield management standpoint, and looking at the spread versus the bid data and the actual CPM closing price.
I mean, we're really sort of a video-centric forum here, but when you look at video and you look at the fact that, again, we keep saying not a lot of liquidity in the market yet, right? So a lot of video inventory, actually more than 50% of premium, is still sold direct. Do publishers really want a set it and forget it, or do they want to be that hands-on on their supply-side platform, managing optimization in a proactive way? Like, where are we in that sort of hunger?
You know what, there's a lot of both. So there are some publishers, and we actually offer everything from a fully managed solution to a self-service solution. Some publishers just don't have the bandwidth to go in and look at thousands of lines of data and optimize and change price floors. Some publishers have teams of 20 or more people dedicated to just that. So I really think it depends on the publisher that you're speaking with. In addition, we just think it's a better way to serve ads. So when I think of calling or having a buyer and a seller on the phone, transacting a paper IO and ad tags, right? I think of calling a travel agent to book my vacation and then printing out my boarding pass, or calling a stockbroker to buy shares in a company, right? I don't do any of that stuff that way anymore. And I think that advertising, you're just going to experience that change. So when we say direct sold, we just think that the way we're transacting, it's much faster, it's much more reliable, it's much more transparent. You see the shift in buyers want to have control over the targeting, they want to validate. We talked about grading your own homework, right? So that shift has created some issues for publishers in the way ad tags actually operate. It's a lot of times rotational creative. There's ad decisioning on the back end. That creates an issue. And then there's a lack of transparency into who's serving what when. Our platform is designed to come in and help publishers with that new sort of ecosystem and buying behavior.
I know, and I hear you, and I've processed the listening to customers thing. But part of what you've got to do is preempt their needs and their business requirements, right? So if you take off the hat of listener, and now you're trying to anticipate, one of the issues is that to leverage and utilize your platform to its sort of optimal capacity, maybe that talent or skill set isn't at a publisher. How are you guys helping these, your publishers sort of get the bench, get the skill set, get the knowledge, and get them kitted up to make the most of it?
And I'll give a couple examples there. So I mentioned that sort of decisioning behavior that was creating issues for publishers, whether it be last minute opt-outs, so on and so forth, that started interrupting their revenue flow. Most publishers came to us and said, hey, this isn't working, right? We need a solution that fixes this. So what we're releasing in a couple weeks is actually advanced error reporting, as we're calling it. So we're actually going to show the percentage of time that each of these buyers is opting out, timing out, committing some sort of technical error, so that the publishers are aware. Now, they didn't know that those issues were happening. It was us sort of going under the covers and just creating a product that helped them understand the issues in more depth so that they can communicate with their buyers and help solve those problems. Another thing we hear a lot about is first and third party data, right? So a big focus of us for the first half of 2014 is to help publishers understand how first and third party data interacts with their inventory. So whether it's their proprietary data, or it's a major third-party provider. When a buyer comes to you, and we've seen a big shift towards audience buying and says, I want to buy this segment or I want to buy these types of users, publishers can log into their UI and understand what that means from a scale perspective to them specifically.
Do you see on the publisher side of the business, I mean, again, still more than 50% is sold direct. And even the stuff that isn't sold direct, that is sold programmatically, is often sold at a private exchange with negotiating pricing, et cetera. But is there an appetite to invest hard dollars and hard operational sort of overhead, expense into driving price up in programmatic and in automated environments? Or is it just kind of like, this actually is more efficient, it eliminates overhead, it eliminates, head count? Like, have we flipped the coin yet?
Yeah, and I think we heard some discussion today that for some of the premium publishers, programmatic pricing was actually higher than what they had seen through the traditional direct means. And I think we definitely help publishers from a transparency standpoint identify buyers who are willing to pay a lot. Maybe they're looking for a specific segment of users or specific URLs so that they can capitalize on that pricing structure. Obviously, in the RTB environment, it's a second price auction. So buyers are able to bid, but then only pay a certain amount higher than the next highest bidder. So we're allowing publishers to go in and create floors and deals, creating a private exchange essentially with a culmination of programmatic direct deals. And as I said, I think it goes back to you're losing that segmentation between direct and RTB. And the really interesting part about programmatic right now is this notion of programmatic direct and just having it be a better, more automated way to serve ads.
And do you think that the eventual steady state is that we have 3 buckets? If the spectrum is direct, programmatic is that pre-negotiated sort of blanket order, if you will, liken it to other industries, right? And then there's that secondary market, which is RTB, right? So the RTB transactions are actually what is pre-bought in some type of earlier stage, larger business cycle, and then the RTB is what you're trading for your portfolio. You're buying real time for your portfolio of clients.
Yeah, and I think the way we'd break it out is, what's nice about the exchange environment in RTB is it's a huge aggregation of buyers. So publishers are still going to approach buyers, tell their story, get demand targeted specifically at them. That may be all transacted through a deal ID in 5 years. So I'm not sure. I can't see the future, but maybe ad tags will essentially disappear, quite like, in many cases, stockbrokers and travel agents have scaled way down, and now we're using E-Trade to buy and sell shares. But what's nice about what they don't sell through in that traditional direct mean is that in an exchange, there's thousands of buyers there, all actively bidding on their inventory, where maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they had to approach 6 different ad networks in order to clear that inventory.
Right.
But I think there's those 2 delineated sides of programmatic, and both are really exciting right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. It's great.